Hey everyone, welcome back to the Lo-Fi Life. I'm Leslie, and recently I posted a video about hitting a huge milestone in my savings journey. I hit $10,000 saved in 1 year, 0 to 10,000. So definitely check that out if you haven't yet. But if you're clicking this video, it's quite possible you have made it to that 10,000, or you're thinking about what steps you're going to take once you get there. So let's take a look at what to do after you have that first 10,000 saved. And if you do, congratulations. It is such a huge milestone. Let's see what the next steps are going to be. So after your first 10,000, you have 5 options for what you can do next. So do you want to save more? Do you want to blow it? Let's take a look at what your options are. So the first option is just to simply save more. So 10,000 is a really nice start to your safety net, and it does cover a lot of expenses, or a lot of emergencies rather. But if you're looking to cover long-term expenses, so maybe you're looking at if there is an emergency where your financial situation changes, that $10,000 is not going to cover that many months of expenses, unfortunately. So one thing you can do is take a look at what you would need to cover 3 to 6 months of your living expenses and make that your next target number. So even if you're not looking to save more for living expenses, you can always do something like do a sinking fund on top of that. So a sinking fund is for planned emergencies, I guess, or planned expenses that you have coming up. I guess it's not a super emergency if you're planning it, but things like for me, it would be my 6 month car insurance payment. So I pay every 6 months, and it's a pretty good chunk of change. And I usually do pull it from my savings. So if I were to pull that from my savings in the next month or two, I would drop below 10,000, and I do not want to do that. So for me, one thing I am going to focus on is making sure I put a little bit extra so I can cover my car insurance payment. Other options might be something like a vacation, or something like a home repair, or any kind of irregular bills, things like that. So what you're trying to do is create more of a buffer so that you don't have to dip into that 10,000. So number 2 is a big focus for me, and that is to work on your debt. So if you have debt, hopefully you haven't been completely ignoring it when you're trying to save money. My only debt is my student loans, and same for my husband. We both have student loans. Mine is about 38,000, and I'm really hoping to pay that off in the next few years. So my student loans is something I'm really going to focus on now that I have my savings. So if you have something that is a high interest loan, I mean, I would honestly say anything over 6 to 7% interest. I know 6 to 7% isn't considered high interest, but in case you don't have something high interest like a credit card, focus on things that are moderate interest, but still a little higher than what you would get back from like a savings account interest, I guess is the point. So my student loans are all about 5 to 6%. But like I said, it's my only debt, so that's what I'm going to focus on. If you have something like a credit card, a car loan, a mortgage, like you have a lot of different types of debt, look at the interest rate for each one and pick the highest interest rate. You don't necessarily have to do it that way, especially if maybe one of your lower interest debt has a small amount on it that you could just knock out in a few months. You might want to go ahead and just knock out that debt so that you have less accounts open. But I mean, it's really up to you. But I know I tend to look at the interest rate. And if you have credit card debt, make sure you focus on that. So number 3 is one that I kind of focused on a bit this year, or the past year already, and that is saving for retirement. So you can max out your 401k, or as much as you can, do a Roth IRA and max that out. There are several options you can do for retirement if that's something that you're going to focus on, which I highly recommend you do, especially if you're starting later like me. I didn't start saving for retirement until a couple of years ago, and I'm 37 now, so I'm definitely pretty late into the game on saving for retirement. But if you don't want to do the 401k or Roth IRA, or maybe you're putting enough in there that you want another option, you could always look into number 4, and that is investing. So this is the part where my husband tends to do, well, he does do like all of the investing, but I do have a little bit set aside in investments from when I used to do that. But anyway, if you focus on things like ETFs or index funds, those accounts are very stable. So it takes, instead of buying individual stocks, you are buying one index fund that covers a lot of individual stocks. So like the S&P 500 is the top 500 companies. So it's like having pieces of 500 different company stocks in one go. So if something does happen with some of these index funds, like if they go under, I mean, the top 500 companies go under, then we're going to have some way bigger problems out there. So generally, index funds and ETFs are a safer option. I'm obligated to say I'm not a financial advisor, obviously, but that is a really good option if you're looking to put some money into investing. So that is something that can count towards retirement later if you want to do that. I think that's kind of our plan with our investing, but also it's just some extra money to have. So that's always a good idea as well. But like I said, you probably want to avoid individual stocks. Definitely avoid stuff like day trading or options trading or all of those really risky things where you could potentially make a good amount of money, but most people don't. In fact, I think it's like 90 something percent of day traders lose money after the first year. I'll see if I can find the stat and stick it on the screen. But it's really rare to actually make a decent amount with those kind of things without losing really big. Another good thing about stocks, well, depending on which ones you buy, is you could earn dividends. So much like how you earn interest on your savings account, you can earn dividends on your stocks. So not all stocks do this in index funds. You can take a look and do your own research on that. But like the S&P 500 does have some dividends there. And like I said, that's one that so many people know that one and invest in that one as a safe option. That's why I use that as an example. And it's the one that I currently have the most money in. I think I have like $1,400 or so in the stock market that I put in like a few years ago. And it's just kind of built up over time. And I'm just sitting it there and forgetting it because investing is not necessarily my focus right now. So, number 5, and this is the fun one, that is loosen up your spending. I mean, you have a good chunk of money saved. If you have been budgeting super tight, not giving yourself any spending money, if you're just really feeling burnt out and stressed, now it's okay to loosen up a little bit reasonably, of course. I mean, you don't want to go too crazy with your spending. But you could do something like maybe there's a piece of furniture that needs upgraded. Like with us, we recently got a new mattress because we were desperately in need of a new mattress. Ours was like 13 years old and it was lumpy and had dents in it, like from where we were sleeping. It was so bad. So we finally upgraded our mattress and I could not be more happy. It was such a good decision. But maybe there's like a home renovation that you've been thinking about, or upgrading a new piece of tech. Like my laptop is getting pretty old. I got it in like 2016 or 2017. So it's not going to be much longer before I need a laptop upgrade, which honestly, I probably need one now, but I don't use it that much anyway. But the point is, any of these things that maybe you've had on, oh, sorry, Pixel has the zoomies if you can hear her. But any of these things that have been on your mind, now might be a good time to do it. Oh, I think my mic is like creating a something that Pixel is chasing, like on the ceiling, a reflection. That's the word I'm looking for. Also, if you don't have anything planned, you could always just add more to your discretionary spending category. So if you do budget regularly, which I highly recommend, you can just add a little bit more to that. So your discretionary spending, maybe you only have it at like $100 a month or something. You could easily bump it up to 200 or whatever. You could also budget more to a specific category that is kind of a tight category as it is. So maybe you're struggling to stay within your grocery bill, or maybe you have a child who is outgrowing all of their clothes all the time. So your clothing expense tends to be pretty high each month. You can always budget more to a specific category like that. And then one more thing you could do is plan a vacation. I mean, that's one thing that we're kind of looking at as well now that our budget doesn't have to be quite as tight, even though I am, like I said, putting a ton of money towards my student loans. We are looking at doing like a weekend cabin rental, or like some kind of weekend like glamping sort of deal, or just something that's like a weekend family trip or just a couple of days. So it doesn't have to be like a big extravagant vacation. It could be something small that you just do as a family. Definitely look at things like local state parks and stuff like that. They usually have pretty good deals on little vacations that you can do. And if they're local, you don't have to worry about a plane ticket or anything like that. So just something fun. So with all these options, there's definitely no right option for one person. And you might be like me where you're kind of doing a little bit from different categories and with trying to figure out what you want to do. And I'm sure I'll probably change my plans a bit, although that debt is a big one for me. Like I'm really working on paying that off. But it is totally fine to kind of change your plans as you see how your spending habits are. And it really just all depends on your situation and your goals. So I want to ask you, have you gotten that first 10,000 saved? And if so, what are your plans now that you have it saved? And if you don't have it saved, what are your plans once you get there? And are you getting close? I'm very curious to see how you're doing because I know this was just such a big goal for me and I'm so excited that I got there. So I want to hear how you guys are doing as well. So make sure you drop me a comment, a like, and subscribe if you like these kind of videos, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.